Canberra Metalheads.
The Archives.
Me and You Season 2. Alright, let's kick it.
Hello and welcome to the interview section of Canberra Metalheads. You got Marky Malphas
and JDecay.
And we're joined for a nice cozy interview section in the hotel room with the boys from As Flesh Decays. So from left to right we've got
Lacko does vocals.
And Taz, I play drums.
Cool. So we got Lacko and Taz here in the for the interview section, and we're at the A Blaze in the Southern Sky gig down on the south coast. So it's good. You guys are one of the bands we haven't had on the show, and it's good to catch up.
Yeah, it's good to be here, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us on there, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Moruya's a great place. Like, we've only been here for not even 6 hours, and it's just like, wow, the environment's great, the atmosphere's amazing. And
spent a good portion of it in the beer garden.
In the beer garden.
Laughing at the scenery. And, it's beautiful.
Thanks for having us on, man.
Yeah, that's good to have you on, man. And also, usually with the show we'll have like a track. What track would you like at the top of the show there? Is there something that you'd like to talk about now? Maybe a track that you guys are playing tonight?
That'd probably the title track of the album released in 2007. Yeah, The Horror of It All.
When we did the video clip for the title track of the album.
Yeah, The Horror of It All. That's probably...
Yeah, so you got that track as the one that, is sort of the focal point at the moment?
It is. I mean, it's like we're not a band that sort of relies on singles, but it was one of those songs where I had a huge part in writing that song on drums before even guitars were written, which is a pretty hard thing to do for guitarists when they have a drummer go, "Oi, can you just play some guitars over these drum tracks?" And I'm like, what the hell, compared to having guitars and me write drums, which is a lot easier. But
it was an interesting way to go about it, and also being the title track of the album and the thematic part of the album. I mean, with the cover art and everything like that being the thing.
John Carpenter's The Thing, beautiful film.
Of course,
film. But it was just basically, and I really wanted. I think even when I started writing the song on drums, I already envisioned what I wanted that to be our first video clip. And, once I found the location, which was in Beechworth at the Beechworth Asylum, it just all fell into place. And I was like, well, this is going to be, not the hit song, but the main song that is, I like people, the standout track, I guess, on the album.
It's the one song that we championed off the album, like I said, was the title track and everything like that. The film clip being filmed at the asylum, the most haunted place in Victoria, if not the country, has ghost tours there all the time, and our mate Jeff from Asylum Ghost Tours was great help and starred as the killer in the video.
He was the killer in our video. He was. He let us just do whatever we wanted the whole day. And
I think he enjoyed himself a bit, yeah.
He did enjoy himself, having to get covered in blood, but I guess, The Horror of It All is the one, I guess, sort of hit song that I like, just to stand on the album. Not to say any other songs aren't as good, but just, you gotta have that one sort of song that...
Yeah, I know what you mean, Yeah, and, if you enjoy what you're doing as well, you sort of pick that one song out of the album, we've had bands in the past that have sort of said, dude, I love, this particular track, or some band members might prefer other songs, but it's cool to have one song that you'll click on.
I have a few preferred ones off the album, but if we were going to champion one, it'd be that one.
Yeah, cool.
I think with writing that song, I actually wanted to write a sort of not a safe by numbers song, but I just wanted to sort of have just something that's pretty sort of not, I guess, basic, it has it sort of, the blast beats, it has those catchy groove riffs in it, and, excuse me, these busy on them really well. I basically wanted to write a hit death metal song.
Yeah.
That sounds silly, but I really wanted to do that.
That's good, man.
Totally get you, man.
Yeah. As you guys might not know, you may have seen one of the video clips for JJ's band Inhuman Remnants with the bleeding.
Yes.
You're talking to a dude that's not shy of a bit of blood on the stage, man.
First I think, God, I mean, and that's the thing about, just the Australian bands, and not only just Inhuman Remnants, but they do that stuff, and it inspires me to do something close as good as that, you know what I mean? I'm just never short of inspiration from the Australian metal scene. And you know, when I saw the Inhuman Ruins clip, that was one too that stood out, and I'm just like, wow, that's horror.
Oh
You know what I
man,
mean?
yeah.
I mean, that's what our band is about.
It's
like,
really cool, man.
So I sort of just take notes and just try and apply it down the road.
And having catchy, good, well-structured songs is what I'm all about, man.
It's
and
brilliant.
love it. Your new track was great.
I appreciate it heaps. I
Yeah,
mean,
cheers,
it's just it's just one of those things where, you know, it's like the old death metal bands like with Morbid Angel and stuff and Deicide. You know, they just every one of their songs, you just know it's Morbid Angel. Like they have each song, you just know what the title of it is called, and it stands out.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
and I find a lot of, like, no disrespect to any of the modern death metal bands these days, I miss a lot of that. Sort of you listen to Hours of Madness and you just know Chapel of Ghouls and Maze of Torment. They start off so catchy. And
Yeah.
They have those bits where you go, whether you want to be a drummer or a singer or a guitarist, you want to learn that riff or you want to do that. So
It's
Have that hook.
yeah,
hook,
yeah.
yeah.
Hook. You
Absolutely.
gotta.
Good for death metal, and
Hey.
it's good for any sort of genre of music. But
It's
not
a
something
lost
to shy
art,
away
man.
from it, yeah.
In my opinion, a lost
Yeah.
art. A good hook in a death metal song.
absolutely, yeah.
headbanging, that's basically what I mean. If I see a band that I don't know and they just got the riffs and it makes me want to headbang, I'm like, I'll buy your merch, buy your
Support
albums.
it. Yeah,
Exactly
yeah,
right.
yeah.
For me, headbanging is a big thing for me. So we try to incorporate a lot in our songwriting. It's just riffs.
Yeah.
If you haven't got riffs, why are you wasting?
It's
people's
not music.
time? Exactly right.
You need a hook, man. You need.
It's-
Anyway. It's as I said, lost art, man, and you guys bringing it. And
Cool, man.
Oh, thanks, man. We
Dude.
try.
Yeah, that's rad.
Uh,
It's like the guys from like Deprivation who's on the bill, like they consider groove metal and they have that catchy feel about them as well.
Yeah.
And like we've played them a couple of times on the show, but like you said, just getting that rhythm and also that feel about tracks.
I love
brings
that
it
sort of
back.
groove sound, and it
Yeah.
is the epitome of all that. You
Oh,
know?
Benny's such a front man too, but then you also look at like the speed of the stuff as well. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm definitely keen to see them tonight. I mean,
Yeah, they're gonna be-
there's so many good bands which, you know, like living in Albury Wodonga, I don't get to see a lot of these bands. I listen to them, but it's part of doing gigs. Is
there's a lot of
finally
the
catching up with these
reason
bands.
we like doing these shows, isn't it? So we always come out and we end up seeing bands that we genuinely like and enjoy seeing live, enjoy having beers with after the show.
Yeah,
all
we're
that
definitely
sort of thing.
I think we're definitely fans more first than musicians in the band. Like
Yeah.
we're just here to catch up for bands that we dig the shit out of,
Yeah, yeah,
and we get to play our own stuff and hopefully, you know, people like what we're doing.
Suffer through half an hour or 45 minutes of us, and then
You get the other good
watch
bands, yeah,
good bands. Yeah.
There's no suffering, dudes.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
My highlight for the show, anyway.
There we go. And like I said, man, these sort of shows mix up the genres and we can sort of capture more bands that we wouldn't normally get. Like, a lot of the bands, except for Deprivation, we've had on the show before.
Yep.
We've interviewed them, and this sort of broadens the horizons to get you guys. Like, for the people that don't know, whereabouts are you guys from?
Well, I'm from Albury Wodonga.
Yep.
Which is probably about 6-7 hours away from Moruya. About that.
Oh, it depends on your trip. Yeah, I suppose, yeah, it's about that. It's on the border of New South Wales and Victoria, just
Yep.
down there on the Murray River.
Yep.
I'm a little bit outside of town there on the Beechworth Victorian side, just outside of Beechworth.
Yeah.
Guitarist Ryan lives in Henty in the New South Wales side, about an hour away.
And two of our guys are in Melbourne.
Yeah, the other two guys are down in Melbourne, so we're a little bit all over the place.
We are.
We started out as an Albury Wodonga band, really, and then sort of, you know,
Branched out.
Spread
that's
out and-
just the way people move over time and
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
like that. Doesn't.
Yeah, we get it, man.
Yeah.
We migrated to Canberra.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And
That's
you,
right.
guys,
Well,
you
you
guys
got-
are migrating to Melbourne, essentially, and
Especially some of the younger guys got to go where the work is, where they're, you know, where they want to
Yeah,
be, and
careers.
That sort of stuff. And that's the older blokes. They're happy to settle down in the country and chill out a
Yeah,
bit.
I love Albury Wodonga, but you know, I'd love some more extreme metal bands that way. But it is what it is. So
Oh, you
I
can
go
only
to
take what
Sydney
you
or
can get in
Canberra or
places
Melbourne
like
for
that,
it.
yeah.
Well, it's like we've talked about this on the show before, because with this, like, for example, we were talking off mic earlier about Psychroptic and Todd being in the States. What happens there is just due to technology now, it's available to still communicate it easier.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, that's
Like, you
right.
can-
Because
Yeah.
you can get together and have a jam. You can record that with devices and stuff these days that are so easy to get hold of and do, and just
Yep.
share via the internet and everything. The guitarist has an idea, he can send it to the drummer or whatever, and the other guys can listen to it, put in their 2 cents worth and everything like that. It changes the writing process somewhat, but
does,
it also is very conducive towards it, especially when you have that kind of distance between some of your band members. And
Yeah.
like we get together for a writing session at the Ants Nest Studios a few
Ants
weeks
Nest
back.
Studios, yes. Daniel
Um,
from Mustache
and
Hands, another
we-
Melbourne band.
Yeah, we did a bit of recording on all the stuff we did there, and then share it up on social media between us all afterwards, and
Yep.
take those ideas, extrapolate from them, move on forward, and try and build them into what's going to be our next release.
Yeah.
And it's apart from that, those sessions when we can actually get all of us together, it's all going to happen online basically. When we're just to and fro between all of us. So yeah, it's interesting. It's
It can be
a different
hard
way of writing
sometimes. I mean,
songs. I've been in other
communication
bands
online
where we
is
all
nothing
just
to
wrote
do.
songs in the band room, where we all just jammed together.
Yep.
In face to face in person. I really like that process, and I really like the way this process works as well. It's different though, and it's interesting to see where it'll take us.
Well, it's like not far from like. Dude, it wouldn't have mattered like 10 years ago. It might mean that if someone was going to move away, you wouldn't have been able to have the band with the same members again. But
Well,
now
that's right.
it can
It'd
still
also be
happen.
at that point, if someone was going to move away, that they'd be out of the band almost.
Yeah,
wouldn't
yeah.
they? Nowadays, it doesn't mean that
Doesn't
so much
necessarily
anymore.
mean that.
You
And
should make it
also,
work.
with someone in Melbourne, you've probably have you scored any gigs in Melbourne more since you've had members there? Do you think?
Jeez, that's a good
Not necessarily
question.
as a
No,
result
I
of that.
think
We
it's really
do
changed.
a few gigs down in Melbourne. We've got another one coming up in a few weeks down there with Rituals, and
Yeah.
was that in the early March, isn't it? The
That's
second or
yeah,
third or something
I
like
think that's next month. But I don't think since Billy and Pat moved to Melbourne, I think as a band from like when we first started being in Albury Wodonga, we really had to go and bust our asses to travel to places to go. Oh, we're here as well amongst all these other great bands.
Yep.
So
that. We always
and
made a point of travelling and playing away more than playing
that's
home
it. I mean, even when I first
when we
started the
were back
band,
then.
my goal was to not play any local shows. I want to travel finally in a band, and we did our first show in Sydney, and that was amazing. And then get down to Melbourne, you strike up conversations with bands you like, and then you just sort of take up shows in the future. So yeah, I don't think Billy and Pat moving to Melbourne has sort of gave us any more Melbourne shows. It just means that those guys are more happy to play in Melbourne now instead of going so far away. Yeah, it's like, oh, yep.
Slackers. No, but
Yeah.
we're always very comfortable to play in Melbourne, and we always have been.
Because Melbourne's,
Yeah, man.
Melbourne's one of those...
Melbourne's a great place to play, and there's a lot of good venues down there.
It's
Yeah,
a really
man.
hard
Good
city
scene.
to crack in the metal scene. Like, especially when I was going to shows in the 90s, it was very... Well, the crowd was like, you didn't play fast enough, they didn't give you time of day, or you didn't play slow enough, or this and that.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, Melbourne is more open-armed with... Man, just you guys have got energy, you got some riffs, you're good dudes to drink beers with, and that goes a long way. Instead of like playing 300 beats per minute for half an hour.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Well, the same as it is everywhere. The metal scene's always this big community, isn't it? Like, everyone's
is.
sort of
The more
knows
and more
everyone
we
through
do
like
it.
6 or 7 degrees of separation. And,
Oh yeah.
and all the rest of that.
oh,
So
definitely.
yeah, it's always just been very at home.
Yeah, fairly
no matter where
tight
we
knit.
go.
Yeah, the more we do this show, the more we realise that like bands that are like you've probably seen with this sort of thing, like you guys now are like that 1 degree closer to some of these bands which you might not have seen before,
Exactly
you know,
right.
or
Oh,
you've
absolutely. And, you
yeah,
know,
or you've known about but you haven't met or played on a gig with them.
have a chance to sink 3 or 4 beers with them and talk.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
definitely. I mean, that's how, a band that, I love, or we all love, is Black Jesus, It was like, we got our first show with them, and I said to the guys, man, you guys are on my wish list of bands to play with, and they're like, let's do some more. I'm like, yes, let's do some more, and, we went down to Tasmania with them, and, they jumped on board with that, and so it's just basically striking up relationships with great bands.
Just networking, things like
Networking
that.
is, and hopefully people go, well, you're not absolute arseholes to deal with. We'll get you on some other shows as well. I'm like, I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's good, and also it matters about the genre as well. Like we found when we spoke to other bands, like sometimes bands will pigeonhole themselves, or they'll, like you guys said with your death metal, but you got your groove and that sort of stuff. You get that rhythm. Like sometimes bands that work well with other bands are more likely to get more gigs because they can play with so many others.
100%
Yeah, 100%. I don't really go for pigeonholing and gigs and stuff. In fact, most of we've played gigs where we were there
Some
with
of our
folk
best-
metal bands. We've
Yeah,
played
yeah.
with Lagerstein and
Some
stuff
of our
like that.
best shows. Some of our best shows.
And they were really fun shows. We got
Oh, they're
very,
fun
very
dudes
drunk.
as well, man. Yeah,
They
yeah. We've,
encourage that.
we've had them at the basement a
I think
couple
that
of
was the first time Taz ever did a beer bong, actually, wasn't it?
Oh, that
Lagerstein
was
show.
with
was that on stage? Because they usually do it on stage, yeah?
Yeah, dude, that was...
That was at Wagga when we played
at
with.
Wagga? We
There was
played-
that folk metal gig, and we were the only death metal band
we
on the
stuck
gig.
out
But
like
we just had a.
We get a
sort,
few- so-
I had fake bottle over me and...
Yeah, no, we had
Yeah,
fun.
man.
no, no.
Well,
Bar
we
of
have Beast Impalers, one of the Canberra bands, and they play often
yeah.
often with those guys.
I think they played with Dongo, I think. With,
As well as part of the tour, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
It's
yeah.
it's always a good fun night. I tell you what, as a bartender there, man, one thing that you got to stock up on if Lagerstein's coming through is Captain Morgan. Just got to make sure you got plenty of Captain Morgans in the fridge, man.
I remember the bass guitar. I was at the bar getting a beer, and the bass guitarist from them just started pouring rum in my
Rum over
beer.
there, mate. That one, Sailor Jerry. That's
He started pouring rum in my beer. I'm like, well, if it's good enough for you guys, it's good enough for me. And yeah, regret that. But I found some of our best shows are mixed genre
Mixed bills.
festivals because
yeah, that's right. And you
All
don't
bands-
have to be
no, no-
exclusive as metalheads. I think the more that we embrace, all the subgenres or however you want to categorize it of metal. Like I just see it all as metal. I love all types of metal. Everything from really like heavy dark blues, stoner rock, thrash metal, folk metal, death metal, doom. You can go on and on all day, but it's all just metal really when it comes down to it, isn't it? And
But,
we don't have to be segregated.
We played that
and-
festival with Infest. I mean, there was
Oh,
rock
there was
bands.
so
There
much good
was,
stuff on that,
there was gore grind bands. Cut Lord.
Oh, yeah.
We've had them on the show before. Had him on the show before.
Great dude. Love that dude so much.
Played the last Heathen Fest, actually.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I remember he was telling me he really enjoyed playing
Yeah,
up here.
the
So I'm
ball
like,
up here,
well,
yeah.
we've got to get up to Moruya and see how it is. And so far, it's been really good. We haven't even played yet, and it's been good. But I just find those festivals where it's mixed genre. Everyone's just there for the riffs, the music, and I don't have that sort of mentality where I'm death metal. I can't get along with these rockabilly bands. Like, let's just drink some beers and play some riffs and some good beats, and everyone gets on the same page instead of being that sort of I'm death metal, don't know bar if you don't know the whole discography of Morbid Angel. It's like, who gives a shit, man? How was your set? And they're like, good. And that's how it works. I find those gigs the best ones, the mixed genre ones.
Absolutely, man. That's a little bit like what happens with Heathen Fest. They've got a mixed bill, and then tonight it's more towards the black and death metal, but that like there's within that we've got like bands like Deprivation. It's like completely different from bands like Black Mountain.
Yeah.
But it all works quite well together.
It all has a certain synergy, doesn't it? And
Definitely. I think if everyone vibes together, all the bands have like meeting each other for the first time, they all just vibe over a few beers. The night's just gonna be a lot more better and like fuck yeah.
I think that so I'm biased because I like sway more towards black and death metal myself, but then again, like I've been to some gigs that I'm like, well, this is rad too. Like this is we've had bands on the show. Like for example, last week we had a local band, Matasphere, and they're a lot more sort of like power metal sort of rock of style, and built a show around that, and it's good to hear what everyone's got to offer. I mean, at the end of the day, man, like you said, if the riffs are good, the beats are good, then it's good stuff.
And the people are really good.
the
with,
energy
like,
and
no
the soul
egos.
is there. People actually have passion for what it is they do, regardless of whatever genre or even outside of.
That goes a long
in
way
the
for me.
categorisation.
You got some riffs, you got some beats, and you can have a beer with me and have a good old laugh.
Yeah,
You got a fan for life.
that's
I'll
it, man.
never forget that.
That's the thing. So like with you guys are you guys both original members of the band?
Taz is a founding member.
Yeah, well,
We've got a founding member.
Yeah, I started the band in 2012 when I was living in Frankston, and I moved up to Albury just for work, and I met a girl who became my wife, and I just tried to find members, and I found our previous guitarist Jace, and it was just a two-piece, just writing tunes for an EP, and we did that in 2013, released it in 2015, I think.
Yep.
But in time, we tried to find a lineup, and we found Billy and Pat, and they were actually in another band themselves, a brutal slam band called The Inducer. And we just ended up poaching them, and Billy was playing bass, but he's now on guitar. And we did originally we had our very first show in Sydney, which was probably one of our top 5 best shows.
Yeah, right.
We had a different vocalist. He didn't work out, but we'll leave it at that. And so we wanted to find a vocalist, and a friend of ours goes, hit up Lucka. So Luck had been in bands, and not death metal, of course, but
I've done some metal before and stuff.
yeah, a bit of metal. But
Was he in a band at the time?
what were
Not
you
at the
in?
time. No, I was doing some stuff with some local blokes.
Yeah.
I play bass a lot.
Okay.
Other bands and that sort of thing. I've never really put myself forward as a standalone vocalist prior to this band, so
No,
that was Shorty's fault.
Shorty, yeah, bless you, Shorty. But,
Yeah.
I mean, after we only had that guy singing for one show, and then we didn't waste any time. And
And
we found
we had
Lucka, and he's
another
been here ever
young
since.
fella on
Bless him.
guitars back then as well.
Yep.
So we've had a couple of little shuffles in the lineup over the years.
Yeah, we had we had Jace, who started, was with the band with me as a 2-piece.
Who did a lot of the writing. He was
He did,
back
he
in the
did.
day. A lot of those riffs from the early stuff, especially, and a lot of the stuff on the Horror of It All was Jason's
And he
work.
left last year because when we released the Horror of It All in 2017, we wanted to do 3 tours. We're a horror film band, so every horror film has parts 2, 3, the final chapter. Which in horror films, there's never a final chapter. There's always another film after that. But
And if they do release a final chapter, it's not the final chapter.
no, and then they
You know, the bad guy gets killed, but his eye opens at the end, and he's like, he's not
So
dead.
he Jace is a great dude. I've got nothing but praise for Jace, but he just, he's got more priorities in life than being in a
No,
band
it was
full of
great having him with us,
sticky guys.
and everything he brought to the band was awesome.
But we didn't waste time finding
we parted
guitarists.
on good terms and everything, but the workload of the band, I guess, became greater than what he ever expected it would be. And
It did. I
he
mean, even when I
prioritised
first,
family and other things that are more important.
even when I first
over
met Jason, we
Pissing around
started
with a bunch of
jamming.
idiots like us. and that kind of thing, so
Even when I first met Jason, we started jamming. I'm not going to do any gigs. We're just going to do recorded stuff. Next minute, we're we're playing in Sydney, and then we're
Not a
going
garage
and then
band.
we're going all over the shop. But when Jace left last year, it was on the second chapter of the tour. We didn't waste any time trying to find another guitarist because we had another tour to do, and we had a bloke, Ryan, who's in a band called Dread the Winner, a sort of melodic death metal band.
and still is.
He still is, great band. Dread the Winner, check him out.
Yeah, they're
And
up and coming.
I
from
basically
all
said to him, I
around
said,
the area.
can you learn a set in 2 weeks with a show, and we're going to tour in the later half of the year? And he's like, yes to both. I'm like, that's the attitude I want. And he jumped on board, and he's
And he did it.
nailing.
Yeah,
Awesome, man.
he did it well.
Don't tell him that in person, Buck. 'Cause,
No,
I
no.
give him a lot of shit.
Yeah, he can.
He's going
if
to be
it-
eternally the new guy in the band, so
He
we need to
is.
keep him
He was a
under
Jason
the thumb.
Newstead.
If
New
it,
guy for 10 years.
you'll be able to see. If you don't say that after this, you'll be able to know whether he listened to the podcast or not. see
Definitely.
whether it's
We're
true.
not even going to give him the link.
Yeah.
Nah, but no, he was a saviour. I mean, he jumped into the last sort of minute thing. I didn't want to sit around wasting time looking for, because where I live, there's no people who really want to play extreme metal. It's very sort of
It can be a bit few and far between trying to find the right fit for a band,
It is.
especially a little bit of a niche band, I guess, if you want to look at it that way.
Yeah.
Trying to find someone who's a good fit. So we were extremely lucky in that regard, I think.
yeah,
We could have been on the hunt for a long time, and it could have been
which we didn't.
It could have been a reasonable hiatus. So
Sometimes
worked out
it just
quite well.
happens because it was meant to. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, it
sometimes
seems that way.
if it just you just get the right person come along and it works out. You mentioned that you obviously, and we know this, but the listeners might not pick up on this straight away. You guys are a horror theme band. I don't normally have pre-recorded or pre-organized questions, but personally, what's your favorite horror series? I'm not going to confine you to a film.
Franchise? Oh,
I'll give you
wow.
straight to
Different-
Taz, 'cause he is
I'm wearing the
the
shirt
main-
right now, Friday 13th. I'm wearing the shirt for Friday 13th, part
Yeah, yeah.
3. That's my all-time favourite franchise, because there's, disregarding the first one with Jason Voorhees' mother, there's just something about a dude with a machete and a mask just does it for me.
Yeah,
Just
just
does it.
hacking people
No
up.
frills. Exactly right. I don't expect a lot, and
I like his attitude. It's a very positive message.
it is.
As long as you walk
I think
and you're determined, you will kill shit.
I think it's so hard. I mean, these days, you know, you got franchises like Saw and you know, the Final Destination series and stuff. But I just for me personally, it's Friday 13th.
Yep.
My favourite film of all time, horror-wise, which is not really technically horror, is Jaws.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's like kicking it old school there with
Yeah.
some Jaws.
Yeah, I still have
Who's got the Jaws wallet I seen earlier?
That's mine.
Yeah.
I've got a big Jaws collection at home. It was the first film I saw when I was 4 years old.
Yep.
When my nan would go to bingo, and that means I've got free reign of the TV till she gets home at like 11 o'clock at night from bingo. And you know, I discovered Jaws.
That's the making of a horror movie there.
Definitely. I mean, there's not much coming.
Absolutely, yeah.
I discovered that and the Amityville Horror Part 2, The Possession.
Yep.
My nan came home from bingo, and I was just this close to the TV, like eyes bulged wide. What is this amazing thing I'm seeing? It's crazy. So,
Dude, it reminds so like when I was a kid, my auntie still had the first ever TV that her old man bought when colour TV first came out.
Wow, that's big tube.
Big tube
Heavy,
watch, freestanding. It had its own
It'd take
legs
like
and everything.
3 or 4 sturdy men to pick it up.
And the problem, dude, it was placed there when she moved into that place, and like, dude, it stayed there. It was 20 years old, and do you know what? It used to take half an hour to warm up in the morning. It was some proper horror movie shit. So my uncle never used to turn it off. It ran straight for 20 years before it died. And before that, it'd been around for 15 years before that. So he had a 35-year-old TV. My little cousin, man, he needed glasses by the age of 6 because he used to sit that close to it like poltergeist, man. And and it was some scary stuff, dude. And dude, we used to just sit there and like that's like the horror movie, man. We used to just sit there and watch whatever was on TV.
And you had the VHS, and you'd like when you had like the blank cassettes, and you just like stop it when the commercials come on, and then when you wait for the commercial end, and you just press record again.
Yeah.
Dude, you wake up the next morning, you go, and then you watch it all in its entirety, and
oh man, like we'd take it in turns, dude. Like once my uncle fell asleep, because he used to sleep in front of it, man. Like he's just addicted to watching that old CRT TV, man. Wow. And that was when he used to smoke inside. Like my uncle used to just sit in there, he'd have like an ashtray next to him, and he'd just sit there smoking darts, watching the TV. And once he fell asleep, we used to just sneak on in there and watch whatever we wanted, flicking through, like, you know, going through Wastar, watching as much Cartoon Network as we could, any of that sort of stuff. But yeah, man, some like proper old school stuff. But that just like all those old school, like, you know, you're saying about watching whatever you could until your grandma got home. Like,
it's like when your parents would put on Rodney Root or Kevin Bloody Wilson.
Yeah.
You go to bed, but you're not really in bed. You actually got your ear up against the door, listening to what the fuck Kevin Bloody Wilson's
dude,
singing.
it's like
And you're
what,
giggling,
Your parents
going,
send you home,
yes.
send you to bed because they're watching a bloody scary movie or something. He's up there against the walls.
See, my grandparents were a crucial part of me. They would give me their video card, and I could just get higher R-rated videos. The person behind the desk at the video store would not hesitate in giving me like R-rated
anything.
films. It was great. So I blessed my grandparents to allow me to like get my 5 weeklies for $10. I've just got like, you know, RoboCop.
Is that a Blockbuster or Video Easy?
No, this is like those mum and pop stores.
Oh, dude, the mum and pop ones.
I'm not a big fan. Like when Blockbuster killed a lot of those mum and pop stores that got stuff like The Mutilator or Pieces or Dawn of the Dead on VHS. When Blockbuster came into it, it was a bit more...
Pieces. Have you seen that?
Dude, fantastic film. I love it. Whereas Blockbuster didn't stock that stuff. They just would get more
the mainstream stuff,
or they just wouldn't get the really obscure titles.
More mainstream stuff,
that, you know, the mum and pop stores had, and they had some great titles which it's hard to find. I'm still a VHS collector, and some of the tapes.
Same.
Yeah, I mean, some of the prices you're paying for some tapes right now. It is. Some tapes go for a lot of money. I've been offered hundreds of dollars for certain titles in my collection.
Yep.
But I don't want to sell them because then I won't have it.
Yeah, dude. It's a bit like my brother.
It's not the same as having it on digital, is it?
Dude, it's like my brother. Like, you met Lukey before. Like, we have vinyl collections, and he's just amazing compared to mine. But like, all in all, we've both got. Obviously, his is a lot more wholesome. But at the end of the day, I said to him, "Hey, are any of these like you don't play?" He's like, "I play all of them because I bought it to listen to. I understand it's worth money, and by playing some of them, I've devalued it a little, but it's worth more to me to play it than
having it
if you're not going to play it."
Right,
and that's exactly like that, man. And I reckon that's it's part of a collection is something you can enjoy as well as not just an
I
investment.
guess it's like almost like,
Absolutely,
it's
yeah. I've
almost
done
like
the
being
same
in
thing with vinyls. You know, you've got them in plastic and they're, you know, like old vinyls from the 80s or something. You're just like, well, that's coming out.
Yeah.
It's like being in a band. It's not about money, is it? There is some money, but it's not one of my priorities.
It's
Except I paid $50 for a copy of Chopping Mall.
You can't take it with you when you're dead. You might as well enjoy
Don't tell my
it.
wife that.
Well,
My wife's
that-
listening. Yeah, I paid $50 for a
that's
copy of
exactly
Chopping
right.
Mall.
Dude, it's like so we had Joel from which we spoke about before. He's been
Yeah.
the drummer in
Yep.
Armored Angel. We had him and Reggae, who's in
Reggae.
Reign of Terror, here tonight.
Yeah, right.
We had those guys in the studio playing vinyls for the Christmas edition. They brought in a bunch of
Wow.
old
Yeah.
vinyls from the 80s and
Reggae, also a VHS horror movie collector.
Oh man, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so
Has a pretty rad collection.
yeah, he has a
Wow.
rad. Yeah, you can get talking to him later. But dude,
Yeah,
we
definitely. I'll talk his ear off.
Oh man, if you sit down and have a beer with him, man, you can talk horror for like the rest of the night. That
Yep.
guy's got the collection. But
If we don't see him actually get on stage, you understand why already, right?
Introduce me later. But
Yeah.
definitely, I
Make
love
sure
that.
it's after our set.
yeah, but yeah, so that's one of the things we had those guys on playing vinyls, and yeah, it's got that different. It's like good to share and play on the air and things like that.
Yeah,
Definitely,
bloody
definitely.
oath, yeah.
But yeah, guys, we'll wrap it up with that, man. And you guys mentioned that you had a gig coming up at the start of March, so keep an eye out for the dates on that
Definitely.
one.
That's March the...
Second or third or something like that.
Second or
It's
third. I feel
early
really bad
March
for
on
not
the
off the
weekends.
top of my head, but that's with a band with us that we're good friends with, Rituals, who just released their EP just late last year. Great, fucking fantastic Swedish
Yep.
death metal band. That's at the Bendigo Hotel in Melbourne.
Okay,
Great
so
venue.
yeah, well, what'll happen, man, is when I release the episode, we'll chuck a link to the event page in the description, and you guys can check it out from there. And if you don't get a chance to, if you're not listening back to this episode after tonight's gig, and you feel nostalgic for some As Flesh Decays, just as nostalgic as we felt for those old VHSs during the show,
That's how it be.
you guys can listen back to the episode. And if you're in Melbourne, go head on down and check that one out at the Bendigo Hotel.
Definitely.
And keep an eye out on their socials for any more information. You guys have Facebook, obviously. Is there any
We
other
do, yeah.
platforms?
I think we have Instagram,
Facebook,
which
Instagram, Bandcamp and such.
we can buy our merch.
Yep.
But just keep, I mean, basically, our Facebook is our main thing. And like I said, this year we'll be writing and polishing up our next release.
Yeah, we're
which
mostly
will-
writing, but
which
there's a
will
few
be-
gigs in amongst. So yeah.
Which will be titled Dead City Cathedral. So I'll drop that one there.
Yeah, you might as well.
That's the second time I've
Perfect.
dropped that title.
Excellent.
Dead City Cathedral. And yeah, that's... Bloody hell, fingers crossed it's out by the end of the year, but if not, it'll be out when it's ready. And like I said, you can follow Facebook and keep up to date what we're doing.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for coming on the show, and thanks for sharing that with us. Dead City Cathedral. Keep an eye out for it, because it will be hitting your ears at some point in the
Can't
future.
wait to get it out.
Now, we usually close out the show with a track. Is there something that you'd like to close on? Another track from the album that you'd like to push out?
Yeah,
Like a-
Descend
your
into
call, mate.
Torment.
Descend into Torment. Okay.
That always goes down fairly well.
That's about Hellraiser,
Yes,
the film
Yeah.
Hellraiser.
the Hellraiser series actually.
Yes, that's one thing we can catch on. Was your favourite horror franchise?
Hey,
Oh yeah.
What was your horror-
Before
yeah.
we close up, what's your favourite horror
Oh,
franchise?
I suppose yeah, it's really hard to say. Like Taz is the main horror movie fan. I'm got a little bit of a penchant towards serial killers and such. So when he goes Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I like Ed Gein and
Yes.
you know what I mean. So I don't know. Yeah, I really enjoyed the Hellraiser series. That was definitely.
I'll stick with the horror and you stick with the serial killer stuff, eh?
Yeah, that's
Works
pretty much
well,
where we
man,
meet.
man.
That's where we
Good
meet.
stuff.
Man. That's where it always goes. But yeah, Pinhead, he had some of the best lines. Didn't
Dude,
he?
he's the Clint Eastwood of horror. Like
He is,
everything
yes,
he delivers
yes.
dialogue-wise is badass as...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I think our boy JJ can identify with that as well,
Yeah,
man.
and both
Cool is
sides.
that?
I think the first time I ever met JJ, I was wearing a Pinhead shirt. So.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, man. So, yeah, thanks for listening to the show.
We are As Flesh Decays.
And you're listening to Canberra Metalheads.
Bianca, bam!